All right, guys, let's get right into it. We're going to be doing Red Seas Under Red Skies, Book 2 in the Gentleman Bastard sequence by Scott Lynch. Okay, let's start off with positives, as I always do. Deeper dive into the characters of Locke and Jean. I really like how Scott uses the events of the previous books to like show the emotional and mental strain on these characters. Like the things that happened in book 1, you know, they affected these characters. And sometimes like you think, "Oh yeah, obviously like that, there's consequences for those things that happen." But not every writer keeps in mind how traumatizing sometimes these events can be for characters. Like, sometimes characters will lose a friend and then by the next book they'll just be over. That character will just basically be gone. But I like how Scott keeps that in mind when writing these characters. And yeah, they do like heal and move on somewhat in certain ways, but like they're different. They're different for it, and they're definitely scarred from these events that have happened. One other thing that's really good and that's kind of scary for I can't believe he pulled it off, which is the classic, what I'm going to call the classic pirate story. The time that your characters spend a ton of time on a ship. And the reason that is so like difficult to do is because, well, two reasons. One, you can't change scene. If you're on a boat for several months, I mean, like you can do transitions and jump to new ports and stuff like that, but like he doesn't do that. He spends time on the ocean. So the only thing you have to work with are potentially you can do a fight here or there, but a lot of it is just character moments. Right? You can only do these character moments between whoever's on the boat. You can't like add new characters in because no one can jump into the middle of the ocean. And so it makes it hard to forward the plot along because you're stuck on this one vessel moving in one direction. So a lot of times you'll see like, I find it very rare to have like a story that's based in mostly around, the sea and travel like that. I'm sure there's plenty more that I haven't read that are out there, but I know they're difficult to do. But you'll see, authors use those type of scenes as transition times and times to jump into other characters' perspectives that aren't there. So like it's just like they're traveling and you'll get a few scenes on the boat about like what's going on and you'll get those good character moments and stuff like that. Next thing, Scott does a good job of setting up and paying off. He did this in the first book. He does this in this book. Everything means something. Every part is important to what's going on in the story, and it will come back in the long term. There's like a lot of moving pieces, so I like how he does that. I think those are good. Okay, I'm gonna get into my critiques now. It sort of felt like this book was just let's kind of repeat what worked in the first book and let's call it good. And it didn't have the same impact as the first book. And things specifically with that is like, I talked about in the Lies of Locke Lamora review, that we don't get to know Locke's name. We don't get to learn what Locke's real name is. We don't get to learn it in this book. So, and we don't really get much about it. We don't get anything about his past. I know we know like something, but like, where is he from? Who is he? There's this mystery around that Scott has built up, and it's just not touched in this book. I'm going to get into it. I'm just going to say it now. Usually my first book reviews of a series I try to keep mostly spoiler free till the end. Starting from this point, spoilers, because I hope that if you've read it through the first book, I hope you have given the second book a chance. So spoiler warning, leave now. 3, 2, 1, gone. Okay, I'm going to start. So we get the intro scene with Locke and Jean, and it's like this setup of like, oh my gosh, Jean has betrayed Locke and he's turned on him. And it's like, no, he hasn't. I didn't believe that for 1 second. And that might be because I read so many books, but that is the classic, like, false setup, right? It's just like I'm going to hint at this darker thing that's going to lead later on, and you're going to read every moment of this book in that Jean and Locke are at each other's throats, and they're going to turn on each other. And it's like, no, we know they're not. Like, it's especially since one of the first scenes is literally Jean trying to pull Locke's. I don't. Okay, I try not to curse. So, Locke, Jean is trying to get Locke straightened out because he's a mess. And so, like, this moment doesn't mean anything. It just is like, okay, so you gave away something that happens later in the book. Okay, cool. And I did like how that scene pays off in the end. I thought that was good. How, like, Locke has been so shaken by everything that he actually thought Jean would betray him, but, like, we know Jean is, like, basically tells him, like, you're an idiot. And I like how there's that consequence of, like, that detail of Locke being actually scared for his life. So it's just, I don't know. It just feels like kind of like, why is this here, right? So these are I'm gonna get into some bigger things here, and definitely some bigger spoilers and stuff like that. So, so let's do the first book talk comparison to this book now. Locke, like, everything goes well for Locke in the first book. I mean, I know, like, in the end, like, yeah, there's a few things go wrong in certain aspects with the bonds magi or whatever, and, like, you know, he loses his friends and stuff like that. Like, he does lose things, but, like, his plays always work in the long term. And the one thing I didn't like about this book is that it just felt like they couldn't get anything to work. Like, it felt, I now that I'm saying it, I think I know what I'm kind of getting at. It's kind of this idea of a passive character. And a passive character meaning, like, when the character is not the one driving the plot forward. The character is not the one making the decisions of where the plot is going. And that's one thing that you want to avoid in most circumstances. Like, you can have that happen occasionally where, like, the character is forced into a certain decision because they don't have a choice. But normally you want to leave it up to the character to decide how they, you want the character to be clever. You want the character to decide and push the story along and push it forward. And almost everything that happens in this book is not up to Locke and Jean. Like, they have their plan that they want to do, and then they're, like, roped into all these other things because they don't have a choice, because they're dying, they're poisoned. And it doesn't work well for holding interest. I don't think it's, like, a good way to work. And it's okay. Let's move on from that. I think I've said enough about that one. Let's talk about second books and series and stuff like that. So we know the first book is here, and I don't know how many books Scott intends to write with this. I don't know if he knows how many books he intends to write with this. It might be somewhere online. I mean, someone can post it down in the comments and show it to me. But generally speaking, regardless of the length, I mean, usually, because most book series are trilogies. I know this one, at least the fourth book, is coming out this year at some point. But generally speaking, the second book, because your first book is usually you want to get people in, you want to hook people. It's usually a self-contained story. It's usually, characters die, things happen. You move on from that. The second book is, generally speaking, in a series, the resetup. Okay, this is going to be a series now. I need to introduce more characters. And so we do get character introductions. Don't get me wrong, there are still new characters in this book. But normally, and this is more of a personal thing, but normally this book would be used to set up the new gang, right? And I think Scott does a good thing of like saying like, because they kind of could have done that at one point and then they didn't, and like, so I think maybe he was even aware like, hey, I'm not doing that, story. But the thing is we do need new characters to push the story forward. Like Locke and Jean are super interesting characters and I really like them, but we need more of the cast. We need more people here. And we get Ezri, which I was excited for, and I thought she was a good fit, and I thought it was a good way of like, because Jean and Locke have been like just literally losing this entire book. Like everything's gone, and then Ezri comes in, and I was like, Jean finally gets kind of a win for himself. And I really liked that. So when she dies, I was very much like the way she goes out is fine. I get why she, like, her character motivation, it makes sense. I get why she does it, but I feel like it's a waste because I was just starting to get attached to her and then she's just taken away and she's gone. And I think it would have been more interesting to have her with, you know, more going into the future and like Locke and Jean moving on to their next, you know, their next thing and whatever they're doing beyond that. And instead she, you know, she sacrifices herself to chuck this burning spear over to the other ship so they can get out of a rough situation. And it's like character death is complicated, but it felt like it could have been saved. Like, imagine this. Imagine Locke or Jean and Ezri, you know, get together. I mean, they were kind of already together in this book, but they're together for, let's say it ends up being a 5-book series. I don't know how long it's going to be, but let's just say 5 books. They're together from here until book 5, and that's when she makes the sacrificial play. And it just rips Jean apart. And I think that would have been a better payoff than having her die here. So it's mostly just so like this is potential that I felt like was wasted. So the first book I liked a lot. This book there are some good things that he does. Again, Scott's writing is good. Like just his sentence level work is good. His character work is good. The plotting of this one is not my favorite. I don't think the characters really drive the plot forward. I think the plot tries to drive the plot forward. There's good things in this book, and I've heard tons of positive things about these. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I am going to keep going on to the next book. It's not like I'm just like, no, I'm not. I'm like, this is my stopping point. Once I start something, once I'm this deep into something, I got to know how it ends. I got to know what happens next. But this book in particular is definitely probably going to be my least favorite in the series. I would guess. And that's okay. I mean, that sometimes happens, especially with people who, you know, like newer writers. I think The Lies of Locke Lamora was published in 2006, and then this was published in 2007. So, like, you know, that doesn't make him a bad writer by any means. It just, I feel like there's a lot of things in this book that I'm just like, it could have been a lot better. Again, I think this book series, I'm hopeful for the series as a whole, because there's a difference between like one bad part of a series and like the series being bad. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there'd be as much love for the series if it was meh. You know, if like the first book's really great and then it's kind of meh from there on. I also want to say that like this book, like, while fantasy, I wouldn't categorize it as the typical type of fantasy that I personally prefer. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. You know, that it might just be that it's like, this isn't really my thing. This isn't my taste in books, and that's okay. You know, it's okay that we've all got some different things that we like. So, if you want to discuss this book more, comment down below. Let's talk about it. If you have different opinions, if this was your favorite book, if you love this book, then let's talk about it. Give me some reasons why you like it, and we can discuss, and maybe you'll change my mind a little bit. If not, at least we can have a good conversation about it, right? If you like my videos, as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.